Here we are with my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer, Steve Flink. We haven't been talking for a while, but right now we have four semifinalists at the Australian Open, the first slam of the year. Steve, are you surprised to see them or not?
Well, in the case of Djokovic and Sinner, no. I fully expected it, and there they are. They're going to meet in what could be an exhilarating semifinal. I'm a little surprised Medvedev and Zverev got there. Very surprised about Zverev. Medvedev, of course, had a match that went to 3:40 in the morning against Ruusuvuori that he won from 2 sets down, and then another 5-setter against Hurkacz where he needed a bit of luck to get through that too. So a bit surprised, but obviously the big shocker was Zverev, because Zverev had 2 matches go to the 5th-set tiebreak, including one against Cam Norrie, and then there he is, and he beats Alcaraz after blowing a lead of 2-0 and 5-2 in the third, and serving for the match at 5-3. So I give him great credit for holding on to win that match in 4 sets. So that's the second time he's beaten Carlos at a major. He also beat him a couple of years ago at the French Open.
Yes, well, I think that, I'm not so surprised that he won, but I was very surprised to see Alcaraz losing 6-1, 6-3, 5-2. That was really the thing that nobody could ever expected. Also because
but Ubaldo, weren't you concerned about Zverev after 2 exhausting matches? One of them was with a qualifier named Klein, also 5th-set tiebreak. And then the 5th-set tiebreak with Cam Norrie, an exhausting match. I just thought he would come in debilitated, weakened from the long matches, and that Carlos might jump on him early. So that's what impressed me, was that physically Zverev had enough left to play his best tennis.
Yeah, of course, you're right. At the same time, when there is a player who is 36 years and a half and is still capable to reach the semifinals, winning in 4 sets like Djokovic has done, dominating the last set, because he lost 1 set with 3 different players. But then when he had to win it, then it was either a 6-2 in the last 2 matches, or maybe 6-4 against the Croatian Prismic at the beginning of the tournament. But so these players apparently seem to have an energy, a physical condition that probably 20 years ago nobody had, because now they have these medical teams. They probably take also all how do you call it, those pills who are help you without being doping to sustain the tiredness, and so I mean, these players, they play 5 sets, they play 4 hours, and then after 48 hours they are already capable to play at their best. That's
absolutely right. No, I agree. Those are very valid points. And we saw it with Medvedev a bit too, by the way, Ubaldo, is that he left the court after the 2nd set against Hurkacz when they'd split sets and took a long bathroom break and came back and played a good third. And then he left the court again after losing the 4th set. And once again, he seemed to be revitalized in the 5th. And so part of it too, Ubaldo, is these guys are mentally very tough. They seem to be able to move past their difficulties and find new energy, and some of that is courage as well.
Yes, Steve. For instance, another thing that I was very surprised is that Daniil Medvedev has lost 18 times his serve. He was broken 18 times in a tournament. Normally, a player with his height, with his service, I mean, you wouldn't expect that.
No, you're right. But I was noticing there were times in the match against Hurkacz where I thought he wasn't hitting the first serve with as much speed, precision, and authority as he usually does. So if you're not locating it properly and finding the lines and the corners at that level, these guys are going to make the returns. They're going to come back. But you're right. That's an astounding number of times for Medvedev to lose his serve, because he does have very underrated first serve, and he'll need to serve better against Zverev. Even though he's been dominant in that rivalry, he needs to pick up his serving in that semifinal and serve better than he did against Hubie.
Yeah, and then I was also thinking that maybe today the stats were wrong when I saw that Zverev had 85% of first serves. I mean, 85% for someone who serves huge as he does. It's unbelievable almost.
No, that's just an astounding number, and it is to his credit, because you're right, he's not letting up much. He's serving in the high 120s, low 130s. He's serving close to the lines. That's an amazing number. It's remarkable enough if you can get to 70%. To be in the mid 80s is absurd.
Yeah, well, the other day, Yannick Sinner played Kashanov, and he had only 54% per serve in, and still he was capable to win. But I said, if he will not serve better against Rublev, he will lose. And then he played Rublev, and he had 64%, so 10% more.
But he still had to fight off 8 break points, and that to me was one of the keys. That, and the fact that he was 1-5 down in the tie break and ran off 6 points in a row to avoid making it one set all go up 2 sets. So I thought he was very good actually against Khachanov and Rublev on the big points. You know, when he had to. He's been good the whole tournament at saving break points, and that's been one of the keys for him not losing a set.
Yeah, well, you mentioned those 8 break points, and in 5 occasions, either he served an ace or a winning serve.
Yeah.
So while he had this low percentage on first serve, when he needed, he had, on pressure points, he had 80%. Of playing well and having good serves. So that shows that he's sort of quite very confident on himself, very quiet, very calm. He doesn't seem to to get worried too much. And
no, you're right. You're right. It's funny how some of this is in the mind, Ubaldo. You remember when Fritz fought off 15 break points against Djokovic, didn't lose his serve until finally in the 3rd set he went down 2-love, and then Djokovic broke him 4 times between then and the end of the match. But he said afterwards that he started to get very loose on the break points because he saved so many. He was like, well, here's another. I guess he deserves to break me. And he didn't get tense, and he went for his shots and made some backhands down the line. And I think Sinner can get that way too sometimes, where he's able to relax, even though it's a very tense moment. He's able to stay relaxed at the big moments, which is one of his finest qualities.
Yes, I completely agree with you, Steve.
How much of his success does he attribute to you and your writing about him and the fact that you always believed in him? Has he spoken about that publicly yet?
Well, it's never so easy nowadays to talk with a manager. If you ask a manager to talk with a player, they always find excuses. And I am not begging anyone, but I think he knows. I have a good relation with his coach, Vagnozzi, who is a very nice person, very well educated, well brought up. I know, of course, also Darren Cahill, and I have a great, can I say, esteem about him. I mean, I appreciate him a lot. And yes, true. I was always confident that Sinner was very serious in working on his weaknesses. I mean, he's very dedicated to tennis, 100%. He studies all the details. And it was when he lost to Tsitsipas in the last 16 at the Australian Open 2 years ago that he decided to quit Piatti, his former coach, and to change team because he realized that he had some big weaknesses and he wanted to work on them. And it's not that Piatti would have not been able to fix it, maybe, but he thought that he needed some fresh air, somebody, giving him some new, vision of what he had to do. He changed his serve. His serve was very poor before, very weak, and now.
Right.
And now, when he needs it, he's capable to ace. He's capable to do winning serves, and from a baseline, I think he's probably the one that has more chances to play at even level with Djokovic.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. He's demonstrated all of that. Listen, they had, obviously, he and Djokovic had a couple of incredible matches at the end of the year. First, when he beat Novak in the round robin in Turin, then when he beat him in the Davis Cup finals with triple match point down. In between, Djokovic destroyed him in the finals of Turin. So he has to. So that proves he has to be at his best. That's what that shows me. If he's not at his best, then there's a chance Djokovic beats him comfortably. But if he is at his best, he's in the match at the very least. Yeah, I think, Ubaldo, I honestly believe that this year, Sinner will outperform Alcaraz and will be in contention for #1 in the world. It wouldn't surprise me if at the end of the year, Djokovic and Sinner were very neck and neck for 1 and 2 in the world.
Would you think that right now Djokovic is at his best or not? Because of course he is used to play better and better along the tournament. He didn't start that well against Prismic, then so also with Popyrin. Then he got better, but it was easier. Echeverry and Manarino were not really contending. And then with Fritz, as you say, they missed 15 break points, which is very unusual for a player who is considered the best returner of the tennis circuit.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Ubaldo, but I think he's playing very well despite that. What I liked was they had the close-up shots of him on the television after Fritz would be saving these break points, and he'd have this look on his face like, how many times are you going to do this? And don't you realize that in the end, I'm going to break you and I'm going to beat you. So let's just get on with this. He handled it well. I believe that part of the problem with Fritz was that it was so hot. And especially in the early stages, the first 2 sets, Djokovic was literally feeling the heat. And it was in the high 80s Fahrenheit and reflecting off the court, hard on both players, but particularly hard on him. Then I thought he played very well the last 2 sets. I expect him to take it up a level against Sinner, to tell you the truth. This is the big semifinal. He's been waiting for it. They both remember, though, those 3 matches were in 11 days, in about 11 days, because 2 in Turin and then Davis Cup, all in a very short span. Then earlier in the year, Novak beat him in the semifinals of Wimbledon in straight sets. So I feel like Djokovic is playing well, but he knows he can get better, and I expect that he will.
Well, if he can get better, then he will win. But because normally, I mean, to beat Djokovic in Australia, which is his garden in a way. We say when someone.
Well, it's a little bit like you in Italy.
Well, I mean, it's.
No, I agree, though. Ubaldo, I do agree. To be more serious, I agree. I mean, when you have won that tournament 10 times, he's never reached the semifinals and not won the tournament. All 10 times he got to the semis, he went on to take the title. And he was aware of that. He spoke about that even before he played Fritz. He said, I've never lost once I've reached the semifinals here. So, and just the confidence he has of playing on that court. And I think largely the crowds, he seems to always get some pretty good crowd support. Sometimes there's some hecklers. He had that problem earlier in the tournament, but by and large, that he seems to have reasonably good crowd support there. And I think the crowd actually will be very fair when he plays Sinner, because Sinner conducts himself with a lot of dignity on the court. No nonsense kind of guy, no histrionics with Sinners. And so it'll be a straightforward, hard-fought match. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. I just wonder when Djokovic will show his age, because I mean, unless they made a Serbian certificates for his birthday, but I mean, it's unbelievable that he's 36 years and a half. I mean, there will be one day when he must have a sort of letdown. I remember some of the old champions. I remember in '96, Stefan Edberg, when he had decided to quit tennis, at the end of the year, he was still
Yes.
capable to play fantastic matches, and then the day after, bad matches. Or I mean,
Yes. Right. Right.
there were ups and downs, and the same thing happened to many. I mean, even your favorite player, Pete Sampras, about whom you wrote a beautiful book, which I suggest to all the readers to buy, and I don't take a commission for saying that. Uh, but he, had he lost to Basto. I mean, the Swiss player in Wimbledon,
Yeah.
and then he
Yeah.
was capable to win a U.S. Open. I
Yeah.
mean, so I think that normally a player who is old or getting old must have some days off, some days on. Until now, honestly, Djokovic never really showed.
No, you're right. But I think he's been very intelligent about his schedule and not playing too much. And he still managed to, with one of his lightest schedules last year, he still won 7 titles, including 3 majors and the year-end championship. So I feel like part of it is he knows when to take good breaks, and that's important for him now. And also, he's extraordinary. He's taken such good care of himself that he's playing some of the best tennis of his career. And as you say, 36, but it'll be 37 in May. That's not that far off. He's not acting like it. He's not playing like it. I think part of what will determine when he stops, though, too, Ubaldo, is when he loses that feeling of supreme motivation. He's still so motivated now. If he were to win this title, then he goes to 25 majors and he passes Margaret Court, which a lot of people talk about. In some ways, it's not I don't know if the comparison makes sense because it's men's tennis and women's tennis, but still, he'd have the most of any player. And then at a certain point, if he goes to 26 or 27 or wherever he gets to, and he's already been number one, ended 8 years at number one. We know all the great records, over 400 weeks at number one. There's going to come a point where he's going to say, why am I doing this anymore? What's there left to prove? And that will also have an effect on how hard he wants to work and how much he continues to want to achieve. Don't you think that's a big factor too?
Yes. But he said that until I feel that I'm capable to win a slam, I will not stop.
Right.
And let's say that I don't know what you think about. In my opinion, he is more the favorite normally in Wimbledon now than maybe on other slams, because in Roland Garros we don't know yet if Nadal will be back, what will be the form of Rafa Nadal, and but there are also other players that may be on clay. They can, force him to the 5th set, and you have to fight, maybe run more, and then you don't know about the weather, how hot can be, and so on. I think that he will be the favorite number one in Wimbledon, while here he has to win 2 matches, and none of the 2 matches, whoever he will play after Sinner, will not be easy.
No, it's true. It's true. But it still gets back to what we said earlier. When you won a tournament 10 times like this, and
he won it. He started winning when he was 23, 24, something like that.
But that makes him feel.
There would be one day. There will be one day when they will have to change. I mean,
but
he will be 40, do we have to wait for him to be 40?
Maybe, or 45, maybe. No, but seriously, I get your point on Wimbledon. I agree. And actually, he's won 7 times, and he was so close to winning his 8th last year. It was a stupendous effort from Alcaraz to beat him in 5 sets and take the title away. But you're right, he'll go back to Wimbledon as the clear favorite, and I still think he's won fewer U.S. Opens than he should have. He only has 4 U.S. Opens. That sounds like very little for him on hard courts. But the other point to make about him at Roland Garros is, despite the fact that it's true, he's only won that 3 times, but 2 of the last 3 years he won it. And in between, he lost to Nadal in the quarterfinals. So he's had good success there in recent years.
Yeah. Anyway, I do agree on the fact that probably Sinner is going to climb or some more positions in the rankings. I was persuaded that Sinner made more progresses than Alcaraz in the last months. I mean, Alcaraz seemed to be almost unbeatable in the first 6 months of last year, if you exclude what happened in Paris, where he was cramping. But then in the second part of the year, was not so convincing. And
no,
there is one thing. Juan Carlos Ferrero was not in Australia, and Alcaraz has been watching him every other point, while Ferrero was at his courtside, and today he wasn't.
Ubaldo, I agree. That was I always wondered how would he react. I did think he was becoming too dependent on Juan Carlos Ferrero, too much talking back and forth between points. I think Ferrero should change that in the future and try to encourage him to think more for himself on the court. But leave that aside. It was difficult for him not having Ferrero. But your other point is just as significant. The last title that he won was Wimbledon last year.
And
he didn't win.
And then I tell you, I don't know what you think about. We were both were there. I mean, if I remember the high volley that Djokovic missed to go up 2-love in the 5th set, I think that if Djokovic had not done that incredible mistake, he would have won that Wimbledon too.
Oh, not just that. That was the swing volley. Exactly. He came up and he had a swing volley and he tried to go behind him, tried to go down the line instead of cross court and missed it. Yeah, the other big point was he had set point to go up 2-0 and missed a pretty routine backhand into the top of the net. So he could have been up 2-0 and he wouldn't have lost from there. So yes, he knows he had his.
Steve, how come, Steve, that you still have such a memory? I mean, I thought with the years you were going to lose all your memory on stats, numbers.
No,
I find you incredibly lucid.
Well, I do my best, Ubaldo. I even remember what you looked like in 1977, and you had a lot more hair.
Well, be careful with your hair. You don't know what's going to happen.
I know. I'm holding on to. I don't have much left either.
Listen, anyway, so let's talk for a short minute or moments about Zverev and Medvedev. I mean,
yes.
Sinner had lost 6 times in a row to Medvedev. Then suddenly he started to win against him, and he beat him 3 times in a row. So I wonder if it was from a point of view showing the progress of Sinner. In another way, also that Medvedev was losing a little bit of I don't know, if not strength, but maybe determination, concentration on tennis. It was like if he was carrying a little less. I don't know if that is just my impression, or you also thought that Medvedev was.
No, Ubaldo, that's the first time we're going to disagree. No, I don't think you're giving Sinner enough credit, honestly, on that, because I think Medvedev had reached the final of the U.S. Open, beating Alcaraz, which was a very important win for him at the time, because Alcaraz had beaten Medvedev so badly at Wimbledon and Indian Wells. And so I felt like Medvedev had his confidence back. And all those wins that Sinner had were after the U.S. Open, you know, all those indoor wins, and culminating with the semifinal win at Turin. So I felt like Medvedev was very determined, very eager, fighting very hard, and was deeply disappointed to lose all 3 matches. So I think I feel like Sinner just took his game up a level, and that had more to do with it, because they weren't easy. None of the matches were easy. All of them were very tight. So I give Sinner the credit, is my point.
Okay, and what about Zverev? That after his injury, of course, he had almost 1 year when he was struggling to get back.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
then now, you know, I remember that 2 years ago, I met in Roland Garros Marc Rosset, who told me the day that Zverev will learn how to approach more the net, to play more forward, to not stay always so much behind the baseline, he will be the man to beat. Marc Rosset, you know, was an Olympic champion in Barcelona, 92, and captain of the Swiss Davis Cup team, very good friend of Federer, and he is someone who knows tennis. And he was convinced that Zverev was an underachiever until now. And what do you think?
He's got a case. He's got a point. I don't know. I'm impressed that he could hold on and win this match today against Alcaraz. It's a crucial win for him. He also beat Carlos in the year-end championships in Turin. There's signs, but I worry about how hard he has to work to beat so many other players that you expect that he would defeat more easily. I worry. I feel like his serve is much more reliable now. The double faults have stopped. He's figured out how to hit a second serve was got some safety margin on it, and that his forehand looks better to me than it has in a long time. But the competition, I still feel like, I mean, for him to beat Djokovic, he's got to be at absolutely 101%. And that Carlos, maybe Carlos is going to beat him as much as he's going to lose to him. Sinner, I believe, will get the best of Zverev in the next couple of years. So I don't know. I hope somewhere along the line he can win a few majors, but he's surrounded by a lot of tough competition among the other top players. I don't think it's that clear cut. He's got a great serve. He's got a great backhand, great temperament, a lot of durability. But the other guys that surround him at the top are awfully good.
And then he has also a lot of problems off court, no?
Yes, he does.
So those one also could be important for his future concentration and tennis life, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be easy to have that weighing on his mind and have these trials going on and everybody talking about it, and he gets upset with the media. But the bottom line is he seems to be able to compartmentalize. Seems to me that when he's on the court, he does put that stuff out of his mind very well.
So finally, before we stop with our small video chat, and then we will dedicate some more minutes later on to the ladies tournament. I know already, I think I've understood already your prediction about the semifinals between Djokovic and Sinner, but you can point it out and say it more clearly. But I think I know who do you think will win. But then you must tell me. Then you must tell me also who do you think will win between Medvedev and
Zverev.
While my telephone is ringing and is a radio, but they can wait.
Well, I do expect that Djokovic will beat Sinner. Not at all. In very, very. I have a hard time deciding between 4 and 5 sets. I guess I would pick 4 hard-fought sets, but I expect Djokovic to win that semifinal because I think he'll peak for it. I think he has a tremendous respect for Sinner, especially after the 3 matches they played at the end of last year. And the other one is a tough call. I feel like they're both physically a bit worn out, but I'll go for Medvedev in 5 sets over Zverev.
Well, another marathon between the two men.
What do you
And
think, Ubaldo? What are your predictions?
my prediction is that Djokovic may lose to Sinner either on 3 or on 4 sets, but he will win if they go to the fifth set.
Okay.
And about Zverev and Medvedev, well, it depends a lot on the serves. And if Medvedev keeps losing all those serves, gets all those breaks, then and Zverev instead serves is capable to serve 85%, then I would pick Zverev.
Yeah,
And also I do that also to have so that at least one of us two will will have the right prediction.
yeah, Ubaldo, just quickly on that comment about Zverev and Medvedev. I feel like he can frustrate Zverev he puts up that wall from the backcourt, Medvedev, and gets so many balls back, and he defends so well, and he extends the rallies. And Zverev will need to be very patient, wait for his openings. And also, Zverev needs another serving day, like you alluded to earlier. He needs another one of those days like he had against Carlos, where he's at the very least 70 to 75% first serves. If he can get it into the 80s, then I think that increases his chances to win. But I'd be very surprised at that match with anything less than 4, and I expect it to go 5, but I give Medvedev that slight edge.
Well, that's all for today, my dear Steve. So my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer, Steve Flink, thanks for being with Ubi Tennis and with me, and I hope to see you soon. And we will talk at the end of the Australian Open again to find out if you were right, or I was right, or probably none of us was right.
Okay, Ubaldo, ciao.